If you or anyone you know have been through or are going through a severe mental health challenge, such as anxiety, depression, insomnia, suicidal thoughts or ideation, psychosis, or anything else connected, I highly recommend you watch this video and you share it with someone that you know. Hello, I'm Vishal, award-winning author, international speaker, publisher, entrepreneur, and six-time severe mental health conqueror, and this is my interview to help you.
Hi guys, this is Nathan and Vish, and we're going to have an impromptu conversation about mental health. Me and Vish have been friends for about, since college days.
20 years.
20 years, yeah. And throughout that time, we've had some fantastic holidays. Each other's family, we mix, and yeah, we just had some great times. But today, seeing as it's been Mental Health Week.
Yeah, and month, I think, as well.
Yeah, month, sorry. We just wanted to get together and talk about Vishal's mental health in particular. And I'm going to ask him questions about what he's been through in the past few months and even years that I've known him. But more recently, we've chatted about it a lot more and connected about it. So, yeah.
And I wouldn't choose anyone different to do this interview. So,
nice. Yeah.
Brother and a true friend.
So one of the reasons we waited for this, I believe, was because we wanted to make sure you was in the right place. Because to be fair to the people that are listening and watching, for the past, 6 months or more?
It's been 9 months since this last episode.
9 months.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's been about 9 months because it was end of July last year that this episode started.
Okay. And this is episode number
6.
Number 6, okay. And what would you say was different about this episode from previous episodes?
Because I'd been through 5 previous episodes, I could recognize the signs, the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
I started noticing when the onset began. I started seeing that I wasn't sleeping well. I started realizing that I wasn't feeling well. The anxiety peaked very quickly. Usually it would take a few weeks or months for me to notice the signs. Yeah. But because I've been through it so many times, I started noticing that straight away. So I know that when my mental health is going downhill, my sleep goes and anxiety builds up straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns into insomnia, and then it becomes even worse, and I start getting depression. And if I don't take a hold of it, it then turns into something worse, such as suicidal thoughts and ideation, psychosis, maybe even onset of bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, all sorts of things that I've been told. So I'd say the biggest thing is that my awareness was much higher this time than any of the previous episodes. And what I noticed the most is that as each episode came about, I became more and more aware.
Yeah, okay. And what I really wanted to get to with Vish is I want this, like say, as it's Mental Health Month, Awareness Month, to really give some people some insight into it, because some people are totally unaware of this and probably haven't come across this, or some people will know people and, like I say, might have been through it themselves. So starting off with myself, when I seen you kind of not sleeping right, not focusing right, the first thing I was thinking is, what can we do about this? But for yourself, dealing with that issue yourself, what is your first port of call when you start to notice them changes that you mentioned?
This is so interesting. As you said that, we could possibly even do a second interview, because you want to interview me about my experience of going through mental health.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do another interview where we get an outsider's perspective, a loved one's perspective, a friend's perspective of what it was like from the outside.
Okay.
So maybe we can do that. But from my view...
Yeah. What's the first thing you look to do?
The first thing I always look to do, because I'm quite a proactive person, I like to help myself. So in the past, I wasn't someone who'd go to the doctors or seek out any professional help, because I'd want to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed is that no matter how hard I tried, how much I attempted to help myself, I never could deal with it naturally for some reason. I tried so many different things. Hypnotherapy, going to meditation classes, going doing sports massages or different kind of massages, different types of therapies. I was in private therapy for over 5 years with a psychotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
I tried so many things, doing lots of exercise, changing my food patterns, going to like retreats, going to different courses, going to seminars, going to workshops. I tried so many different things. I can't even remember some of them. That's how many things I tried. And nothing really helped me. Nothing. What I noticed after months and months of suffering and trying to deal with it myself, only then, when it was getting so bad, would I usually seek out medical help or professional help.
Okay.
This episode that just passed, the one that started 9 months ago, because as I said, I've been through 6 different episodes in the last 20, 23, 24 years, I would try and deal with it naturally, and I'd take longer to get to that help. But this time, this last episode, I did 72 hours of walking. It was about 7 to 8 hours a day on average. One day I did 11 and a half hours, then split in 2 sections, 5 hours, 6.5 hours, something like that. And I noticed that wasn't helping, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to deal with it naturally. So within the first 3 weeks, after about the 3rd week, after trying to help myself naturally with changing my food, going out walking, working at making myself exhausted, I sought out some medical help. I went to see the doctor. And one of the things that's helped me in the past, which I don't like doing, but it does work for me, is taking medication. And I knew what medications I needed, so I got on with taking the medications as I was prescribed them. And in fact, because I knew what medications I needed to take, I started self-medicating because I had some left over. And then I told the doctor approved it. I started taking those medications. I tried to do the self-healing, self-therapy, the self-getting well myself, straight away myself with those medications. And usually within 2-3 months, I've noticed a difference. But this time it didn't. And so I was confused, I was lost because the medication wasn't working. The doctor tried to put me on some new medication. And there were many points where I was getting suicidal. And that's when I realized I needed even more help. And I was in a crisis. So I said to the medical experts, look, I'm in a crisis, I need some help. They sent out the crisis team who thought after a couple of visits, they discharged me, they didn't take me forward. It got to a point where I was at absolute rock bottom, breaking point, until they finally took me into a mental health institute. I had to be at that point where I didn't want to be here anymore for them to put me in a mental health hospital. And even then, I had to convince the doctor, because it's not easy getting in them. And I was in one 7 years prior to that. Actually, no, I was in 2 in Canada and 1 in England, which you know about, 7 years prior to this recent admission.
And as well as what you sought to do there as the first port of call of dealing with yourself and then going on to different therapies and, you know, like you say, taking the medication, who was around to kind of guide you as well? Who was there? Who was your support at that time?
I think that's a big thing. We all need a support network, whether it's one person, a small group, a larger group. And I'm fortunate enough that I have you in my life, I have my family in my life. And what I'd done was I'd created our mental health support group on WhatsApp. So I have a mental health recovery group rather on WhatsApp. And I've got you in there, I've got my auntie in there, I've got my cousin who's a doctor, I've got my little sister in there. I just picked a very small group of people who I could turn to. Not to say I couldn't turn to my immediate family. My dad's been amazingly supportive. My mother, who deals with and has dealt with mental health challenges for probably over 3 decades on and off. You know, everyone in my family, even my uncles and aunts and a few people, everyone was quite supportive and understanding because they know I've been through it. It's one of my cycles that I go through. So I made sure that I had these people aware, the people closest to me aware that, hey, I'm going through a challenge and I'm doing my best to be proactive as I always am to help myself. However, sometimes I'm going to need to lean on you and reach out to you when I am struggling. And I guess it's not that anyone can take away my suffering, but just knowing that there are a few people that can help, that can understand, that are available when I really need them, I was able to reach out. And there's also the phone lines. There's loads of phone lines. We have phone lines set up so that we can reach out to people. There are support groups, crisis cafes. There's all types of help and support available here in the UK. And I'm someone who's proactive, as I've said, and I reach out to those groups and those people because I want to get better. And I think that's a big part of mental health recovery, is that the person who's struggling and suffering has to want to get better, has to be willing to take those little steps to reach out to get better.
Yeah, okay. I think that group was fantastic, setting up the WhatsApp group. And I think for me personally, it was just like a new angle of having the support that you'd picked in that group to support you. And again, I think for the people listening and watching, like, everyone's individual. You might have made a different set of people in that group where it's just friends or it's just relatives or whatever, but it's just good, I think, for Vish to explain his story and see what works for other people, but what worked for him. Do you know what I mean? And that way it gives someone an idea of what direction they can take in their mental health journey. So going from that, just go back to now. So you started your medication. What does that feel like? What does that, how does that feel? Because you want to get better, obviously, when you're taking your...
The thing for me is that I don't like medication. I'm not a fan of it.
Okay.
If I can do it naturally, then I'd rather prefer to do that. However, in all these 20 plus years of going through severe, it's not just a little mental health episode, no, it's a severe mental health episode, as you've seen. The only thing that's usually helped me to get balance and come back to reality, come back to a certain sense of myself, is taking medication. So what I would say to people is, if you can, do your best to deal with it naturally, if you can. But if you can't, and you're in a really dark or really difficult situation, don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to reach out to medical help, to professional help. Do something to get some kind of high level help to deal with the situation, because if it continues and gets worse and worse and worse, it leads to something else. It's not worth it. It's better to get the right kind of help, because some of the modern medications, they can help you get to a point where you feel balanced, and then eventually you slowly wean off them with the medical help and supervision. But I wouldn't recommend just getting on medication because you're feeling a bit down or a bit low. I wouldn't recommend that. You only use medication if you know it's something you can't deal with yourself. That's my approach.
Yeah, and create that balance, like you said, So just describe how you felt. Like you're literally, because I know it was a big thing for you. So literally maybe the first night or the first week of taking it, how did you feel? What were the things that you felt? Was it instantly good, or?
Initially, there's a little bit of guilt and there's a little bit of shame around medication, because there's this narrative that taking medication means you're weak. And I can tell you absolutely not, because I am very strong. And I've come to realize that people with mental health challenges have a gift, and they're extremely strong, because otherwise they won't be given such a challenge. So when I first started taking medication, I feel worse. It gets worse before it gets better.
That can be scary, yeah?
Yeah, and it can be really tough. It can be really challenging. It may take a few weeks before you start to notice different. It might even take a few months, like it did for me on this recent episode. And they had to tweak the medications and try me a new one because the old formula wasn't working anymore. And even taking antipsychotics, because it got into a psychosis and I started hallucinating, auditory, visual, having all kinds of suicidal thoughts and ideation. It was terrible. I'd seen things and witnessed things that were crazy. So, in short, sometimes the medication can make you feel worse before it gets better.
I think that's good for people to know, because you're at the worst point, you're accepting taking the medication, but you're going to feel even worse. So do you think, even from the professional's point of view, and say your family, I know you let us know how you're feeling, but did they give you some kind of avenue to say, look, let us know how you feel once this medication kicks in? Did you know the signs to look at? Did they inform you of that?
Yeah, and I think having those support groups, having that WhatsApp group, I was regularly posting how I was feeling, what's going on for me.
Mm-hmm.
The likes of you, my aunt, my sister, cousin, who's a doctor, just keeping you updated and informed. My dad was a very strong support as well. And I don't think without you all being available and being supportive and encouraging, it would have been as easy for me to communicate if I didn't have that. Yeah. So it definitely helped having that support network to communicate what symptoms and experiences I was having whilst being on the medication.
Okay, and you mentioned there the group support as well as the family and friends. What were them sessions like? Like, who did you contact? Yeah, what are the sessions like? What does it look like for someone who's never done that session before? Where do you go and what do you do?
I was calling you regularly and you told me, look, Vish, if you struggle, if you need someone to talk to, reach out to me anytime. Mm-hmm. And that was great for me to know that if I needed to, not that I did call you in the middle of the night when I was having an absolute crisis, but at least just knowing that it helped.
Nice.
And there were times where you'll remember where I was still being proactive and I was going out shopping to get my food, doing my best to go myself to get that food and doing those little things to help myself. I'd call you in those really difficult moments. And I realized that if I didn't have you and family to lean on, I don't know how effective these phone lines would have been, because sometimes on the phone lines, it can help speaking to them. But when you're in an absolute crisis, it's just difficult to know how it's going to help because you're not yourself.
Yeah.
So having those people close to me just gave me that little bit of sense of stability, even though I wasn't in a stable position myself. So knowing I had you lot to lean on, it did help a little bit.
Yeah, brilliant. And then going on from that, the therapies you spoke about, did they continue throughout?
I'd say the last couple of episodes I'd been in therapy, but this last episode, my therapist had a medical procedure to go through. So she wasn't able to support me, and that's not her fault, it's not my fault, it's just the way it panned out. Would it have helped if I had that therapy throughout this episode? I don't know, I'm not sure, I can't say. It did help having an outlet and someone who knows me, who's been my therapist for a while. I know on previous episodes it helped having her there.
Wow, yeah.
However, this time I don't know if it would have helped or not because it didn't happen.
Yeah, I get that.
But if anyone's considering psychotherapy or some other form of therapy, would I say do it? Absolutely. I think every human being should at some point in their life have some form of therapy because we're all messed up. In our own way, we're all messed up. We're all dealing with something. And having someone to lean on and a professional to lean on to give you another perspective can be very helpful.
Yes.
And I would recommend it to anyone to have a therapist at some point in life. It's a great investment in yourself, and the greatest investment is in yourself.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. I think the family and myself explained that in the group of right now, Vish, you just need to get better as well. So putting yourself first was paramount. But I think because you have a lot of responsibilities in your life, that you even fought with that during your mental health episode. So that was something.
Actually, now you just said that, I remember as soon as this episode started, the first major concern and worry for me, beyond family, beyond friends, beyond anything else, was my clients. I'm letting my clients down. I've got events planned across the world and I'm letting them down. My first concern was these people have paid me money to provide them a service, and now that I've had a relapse with my mental health, oh my God, I'm letting them down.
Yeah.
So they were my first concern, and for many weeks that played on my mind.
Wow.
That I'm thinking about other people before myself. And took me months. It took me many months to start accepting and realizing that I need to put myself first at the moment. That can always come back later on. The clients will always be there.
Yeah. There was definitely a back and forth in the group with your auntie, myself, and your sister, and that to say, yeah, just do whatever it takes to get better. Because I'll be honest, from our point of view, it was just to say, like, we want you back. We want Vish back, basically. And to us, obviously, the clients and other people don't matter. So then, obviously, with you being better, you could get back to that. But we didn't want to confuse you with, like, dealing with that at the time. Just going back to the groups a bit as well, who have you met on this journey, on this mental health journey, this particular time, or any time actually, who have you met that is equally going through something and has given you some kind of insight or perspective on it, like a new way of looking at it?
Being in the mental health hospitals, being in a psychiatric unit is scary because there are other people who are dealing with their own challenges.
Crazy.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I remember being in these hospitals throughout 7 years ago, and also recently. It's been 3 months since I was released. There were individuals in those hospitals where I started developing a relationship with them, a professional relationship, of course, not a professional relationship, that's not the right word, but a mutual experience type of relationship where they're going through their challenges, I'm going through my challenges, and we would do our best to support each other. And sometimes that wouldn't help because of the condition I was in where I didn't trust anyone. My recent episode developed into another episode of Psychosis, which was similar to 7 years ago. Being in these environments can be helpful, and it cannot be helpful.
Yeah.
Because when you're around other people who've also got severe mental health challenges, it can be triggering in itself. However, there were a few people that I could have conversations with. We could have mutual agreements and discussions around what we're experiencing, how it's affecting us. And just knowing that we can talk to each other from a similar point of view, where, hey, look, I'm going through this challenge. This is what I'm dealing with. What are you dealing with? What kind of things are you experiencing? This is what you can expect. This is what's going on. And sometimes having a pool game with some of these guys, going for a walk and talk, sitting down, watching a bit of TV, even though I don't watch a lot of TV. Even though when I was in the hospitals, I didn't think the TV was actually TV. Because I was so paranoid that there were weird things going on that I didn't think things were real. Because psychosis is where you have an altered perception of reality, where you feel very paranoid, where you think everyone's against you, everything's against you. You start seeing things and hearing things, and it's just strange, really strange. And just having these other people who are experiencing similar things, not necessarily the same, but similar things, it definitely helped.
Yeah, brilliant. I love the fact that you were mentioning there that the things can be helpful, like meeting people who can relate to you, but also not. The same way playing pool or TV cannot, because you're in such a mind state, I imagine, that normal everyday things are not being considered. You don't need to socialise. You don't need to do anything particular. It's just, to me, how it felt watching you was day to day. You just had to see how you felt. You know, if you was having a good day or a bad day or weeks even. So, yeah, I totally get that it didn't really matter if people were there. But obviously you could see their journey unfolding and kind of, at least you knew, I guess, you wasn't on your own. I don't know if that was felt at all. Like there's other people, because obviously in the community, I feel other people that don't know about mental health, they've never had anyone in their family or friends suffer from it. They just wouldn't know that this place exists, even in a sense.
I think the other thing that I've come to realize is that regardless of what status you have, regardless of how successful you are or not successful you are, regardless of what you've achieved in your life, mental health can affect anyone. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't say, oh, because you've done so well in life, you're not going to experience any mental health. Or because you're at the point in your life where you're just starting out, you're not going to have any mental health challenge. Or you're at the top of the world, you're not going to have any mental health can affect absolutely anyone and in different ways.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize that, especially through this episode, that on this journey you can meet all kinds of people. I remember when I was in the mental health hospitals and speaking to the staff members who are amazing. These people are like heroes. These staff members working in these hospitals, they really go out their way to make an effort to help. Not all of them, but some of them really care.
Yeah.
And they tell you and they make you realize that we've had lawyers, police officers, ambulance people, successful business owners, people who have accomplished great things in life come through these doors and walk out doing better.
Yeah.
And that gave a lot of reassurance that, hey, look, doesn't matter where you are in life, you can get through this.
Yeah, amazing. So like you say, it touched all walks of life and you was coming across these people while going through it yourself. Just to go on to the more transition side now of, okay, like we've got to this interview point, like what has that journey been like now of you being on the regular meds and feeling better and better each day? Yeah, how has that been for you?
It's been a journey, and I thought I would have recovered much quicker. It's been about 9 months approximately since the onset of this episode. Each episode usually lasted 6 to 18 months. This episode that's just passed, I sought out help faster than ever before. Yeah, it's still taken me a while to recover. I'd say I'm about 85% into my recovery. In about 5-6 days, I'm traveling back out on tour to do business again, which is great. I've got that coming up. It's taken a while to get to this point, and I think what I've done recently, I was doing some research into the gut, and I was reminded that the gut is like the second brain, and it's responsible for releasing and secreting certain hormones that affect your mood. So I reached out to an old friend of mine and said, hey, look, I'm ready. I want to do a gut cleanse to help my mental health recovery. I went through that, a lot of clean eating, taking high quality nutritional supplements. I immediately started noticing I was less bloated. As time went on, I felt lighter with myself. I felt a bit cleaner. I think my digestive system improved. I was going to the bathroom more frequently. I noticed an improvement. Things started to get a bit better. And I think I noticed I was becoming stronger and stronger, more resilient, and I came off one of my medications. A consultant said, I don't think you should come off it yet, but I knew within myself that, look, I want to do this now. I want to come off it because of this gut cleanse contributing to that. So I think that was a part of the recovery and speeding up in the last month or so. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm moving towards where I want to be, which is a good sign. And I've come off one of my meds, as I said, which is great. And things have really started to improve, and I feel I'm on the right track now.
Okay, so just a kind of last kind of point that I want to get across to people, again, that are watching it, that are going through it right now. What kind of immediate advice would you give? You know, I know you was proactive, but what would you give to someone going through it as a general? Yeah,
that's a great question, because you can talk about stuff all day long, but if there's no proactivity, no practical steps, then what's the point? It's not really going to help very much. There has to be a practical element to it. So the first thing I would suggest is create a support network. Create a group of people that you can trust, or even a person that you can trust, that you can talk to, that you can open up to and explain what's going on inside of you. Support network is key. So that'd be the first thing. If you don't have a support network, use one of these phone lines. I know they have the central access points, which you can contact through the NHS. There are the crisis cafes that you can go to, which are all across the country. They probably have different types of things in other countries as well. In England, we have the crisis cafes. There's the Good Samaritans you can call. There's other phone lines. You can just go on Google and type in mental health matters, Mind. There's so many different platforms that people can reach out to get a support network. So I would definitely recommend that. That's number one. Number two, get out and do a basic walk. Go out, get in nature, go and do a walk, whether it's alone or with someone. Get into a regular pattern of getting out and having a walk, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Get out and do some walking. And if you're able to do some exercise, because doing exercise, getting a sweat on, it can help. It can help with releasing some of those chemicals that can make you feel a little bit better, even if it's for a short period of time. So some form of activity. Number 3, basic hygiene. You taught me that no matter how bad you're feeling, that in itself is a process. Go and have a shower each day. Yeah. Even if it's not every day, the majority of the days. Get into the pattern of taking care of yourself. Basic hygiene, even if you don't feel like it. Just having a shower in itself can make a massive difference.
Yeah.
The 4th thing, I'd say do journaling. Get a piece of paper, write down what you're thinking and feeling. Make that a regular pattern, whether it's 10 minutes a day, 15, 20 minutes a day, half an hour a day. Write down what's going on for you. And then if it's really negative stuff, you can rip it up, you can burn it, you can throw it away, discard of it straight away. So you know you've got that off your chest and out your mind. Yeah. Number 5 is if you really need to, seek out some professional help. If you're not doing well and you've been attempting to help yourself for a while, reach out to a therapist, reach out to a doctor, reach out to someone who's a professional that can guide you through this journey. So there are some basic steps that I would suggest to someone just to get started. And then, of course, there's other things that they can do. But there are 5 basic things that I think people can do to really start helping themselves.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation. I think people are going to get some fantastic insights. And the fact that you give your own experience, they can kind of, look to that and see what they can do in their situation. So, yeah, thank you for that, Vish. Thanks
You're
for sharing
very welcome.
that.
And I think we should do another interview where I interview you
That'd be brilliant,
about an outsider's perspective on what it's like looking from the outside in for someone who's dealing with mental health challenges, or someone who's got a relative or a loved one who's dealing with mental health challenges, and how to actually help them through that. We should definitely do a second interview to help people, family members and friends and outsiders deal with someone who's going through mental health challenges, because they don't know what to do at times.
Definitely,
so, yeah, we should do that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Vish. Thanks for your time. All right, guys. Catch you soon.
Thank you.